Okay, so I think I want to put a couple things aside real quick and then we hop right into the episode because I'm super ready to get into this. I was super ready to record this yesterday. So, first, did you guys see his hypnagogic? Like the most recent video he posted? That was kind of interesting to me. I don't know anything about that. But yeah, put that aside. But other than that, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Setting out with love. This is part 2 of 2. Well, part 3, part 2 from him. And I decided in this video, I'm just going to get through the entire video and not break it up into parts. So hopefully I make enough comments and stuff where I make it transformative enough, because I always care about that as my type of style of commenting or reacting over stuff. So yeah, hope you enjoy. Probably going to be a lot of pausing. We're going to bang this one out. This one's going to be pretty long, maybe 40 minutes depending on how much I say. So buckle up, grab your snacks, grab everything, get ready. And as always, if you want me to, if you have other videos for me that you want to recommend me, socials down below, comments, subscribe if you want to be a founder. I upload every single day. We got to push the founder thing. We got to take over. Don't worry, we're going to. But other than that, yeah. And let's go. Let's just go. I got this all up and ready. But I really do want to try to get this all done in one long video and see how that works other than chopping it up in parts. But yeah, got my headphones on today, so let's see the audio. Let me know in the video like how the audio is. Haven't worn these in a minute. Obviously I don't because of bulkiness. If you're new from the older videos, you would have heard me talk about wearing headphones. And these ones are they're really good quality, but just so big.
Hello everybody, and we are back with part 2 of tier 3. You already know the drill at this point. I have a microphone now, so hopefully that helps, and let's get into it. Arnold's real height is in reference to the actor Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this bizarre situation in which people don't know his real height, and even he has not said what his height is, so it comes down to people comparing him next to other known actors' height in movies, and people guess anywhere between 5'10" to 6'2". I have no idea why this was in tier 3 since it's
yeah, I have to pause right here and say why is this a thing? I guess someone out there would care, right?
The only one that doesn't fit, but yeah, great way to start off part 2. Natural park closures is in reference to the fact that several national parks around the US will periodically close for unknown reasons. This can range anything from cleanup time to certain year time events when supposedly workers are off, yet it doesn't make sense since national parks aren't exactly something that needs mediated, leaving people to believe supernatural occurrences or things like I spoke of in my stairs video and so on and so forth, that there are these secretive phenomena that occur throughout US national parks that the managers of them want to keep the public quiet of. Lake Baikal.
Imagine, okay, so let me see if I have the comment right here. It'd be nice if I had the comment like right prepared, because oh yeah, I do. Sheepski, shout out to Sheepski. So when I mentioned Slenderman in the other video, Sheepski said, I suggest you look into missing 411 if you want to learn about people going missing in natural parks. And that actually makes me think about that one right there. Funny enough, I just had this idea in my head. I was like, imagine being in one of these parks, like to observe it happening, but like they go to close the park and they don't know anyone's in there. But I'm pretty sure if they're shutting down like a whole like big ass park like that, they're probably doing sweeps. If it's like a paranormal event, there's probably like some wild sweeps and heavy security. But it'd be crazy if you were like in one of these parks when it closed. It'd be insane.
Is referencing Lake Baikal in Russia and is the deepest lake in the world. At 5,387 feet, it's host to several mysteries, including that of aliens and sea monsters and things such as. When the lake was first discovered, several runes and etchings were found that depicted giant fish people walking in and out of the water and these giant serpents moving beneath the waves. It goes further than that though. Declassified Russian documents show that researchers who went underwater to look for missing people came across these humanoid looking creatures in silver suits, and whenever they approached these creatures, 3 people in the crew were instantly killed and 4 others injured. Several lights have been seen both beneath the waves and above them and in the sky around, and people even report mirages of castles and old buildings on the shore that disappear with the blink of an eye. The dancing plague was a real-world phenomenon.
No way. I'm looking in the Lake Belial, or Bacau. I don't know why I thought it was Belial. That sounds freaking awesome. What? The whole illusions and things like shifting out of your view. That sounds cool, but the part about that, the people in the suits and like researchers try to like swim. First of all, you have to be pretty brave to do that under the water. Was he talking about under the water? I don't want to keep going. I don't want to go back, but you know what? No. Let me know if he was talking about under the water. I feel like that's so useless. That'd be a waste of your comment. Okay, let me not. Let me just...
Humanoid-looking creatures in silver suits, and whenever they approached these creatures, 3 people in the crew were instantly killed and 4 others injured.
Is this under the water?
Humanoid-looking creatures. Declassified Russian documents show that researchers who went underwater to look
underwater, okay. Yeah, you gotta be brave. You see these creatures underwater and you approach them, bro? In the name of research, bro. Not a chance. Even though Russians are built different.
The dancing plague was a real-world phenomenon that occurred in 1518 in France. For whatever reason, a few people in the middle of the town began dancing. A few more that began watching began dancing as well, and this went on and on for 2 months. During this time, about 400 people became involved, with roughly 24 dying of exhaustion. The story goes that the people who were dancing were crying, trying to get people to help them stop. Local shopkeepers were bringing food out to feed the people as they were dancing since they couldn't quit.
What the fuck? Okay. What I've heard about this, the dancing plague, is this seems like to correspond with a folklore or like a myth of like, funny enough, fairies. It's funny enough because I was just talking about this. But like how fairies would lead people into dancing until they die. I can't remember what it's called. I want to do like a quick search, but I just want to keep going. But yeah, if anyone knows anything about that, you could put it down below too. Like the whole fairies making people dance till they die.
And to this day, it's just chalked up as mass hysteria. No one knows why the dancing plague happened or where it came from. And it just remains a weird story. Panspermia is a belief that life does exist in the universe through microorganisms. In other words, asteroids that pass by Earth or other places that maybe host microorganisms carry them through the stars, and that's where other life species can come from and things such as. It's pretty much just the idea that life exists everywhere around us, even if we don't see it. The WebDriver Torso is a bizarre YouTube channel that popped up in 2013. Since then, all the way into 2018, they upload these random videos that are just a red square and a blue block in different directions as beeping noises is played in the background. There are a total of 624,774 of these videos. And while Google has come out and said that it's merely just something to test the YouTube algorithm, the beeping is definitely odd, meaning leading many people to believe it's a sort of numbers broadcast or something else creepy shadow man. Toxoplasmosis is a real-world disease.
He said something else creepy shadow man.
In which the parasite Toxoplasmodia enters the human body. While in the body of a healthy person, Toxoplasmodia does nothing. If someone is pregnant, it can cause severe damage to the baby. Other than that, it's not really a big deal, and the parasite is most often transferred through cats. However, where the theory comes from is that studies have appeared showing that toxoplasmosis can cause neuroticism in the host. Now, while you may not think this is a big deal to people associated with parasites, keep in mind there are about 3 million confirmed cases of toxoplasmosis in the US every year. The theory with this being that the parasite has drastically influenced not only American culture, but world culture for years due to influence of the psychology of its host, which again is a lot. Introspection Rundown is a...
Okay, so what I have to say about that is that sucks for people who love cats. Though, we'd still all be infected? Wow, that sucks. Okay, for y'all who have not come into contact with a cat, you're lucky.
practice
Let me
employed
not
by
say
Scientology in order to treat mental
Introspection
breakdowns.
rundown.
This has gone so much so to the point of saying that it is a replacement for psychology itself. While the church is very hush-hush about what happens during these procedures, it did come under scrutiny whenever someone died during one of them. Lisa McPherson was a woman who was a member of the Church of Scientology, and after suffering a mental breakdown in a car accident, members of the church came, took her from a hospital saying that she didn't believe in medical treatment, and brought her to a discreet location. Her body was found weeks later severely dehydrated and malnourished. Not only that, but she had hundreds of insect bites on her, which the coroner later believed to be that of a cockroach. So that creates many questions about this scenario. Did the cockroach bites happen before or after she died? And if they happened before she died, then what the heck is this introspection process that Scientology uses? The United States are an experiment relates to the idea of the Great Experiment, or the overarching idea that the United States was created in order to prove to the world if democracy could work. Where it gets into more of the conspiracy side is what powers wanted this experiment to happen, albeit the Freemasons or the Illuminati or some other creepy historical shadow organization. Belfield psyops, I couldn't find anything.
You know, I hear that one. You know what's funny? You know how you see those memes where it talks about, like, how do you say, okay, you know, like the jokes that have been coming out recently about people finding NPCs or just people acting so strangely. It's almost like the Walmart people meme, like the types of people you find at Walmart, like, and they just be coming looking all types of crazy. It's almost like, it is literally almost like it's an experiment, but I don't know if I want to unpack that one, but I kind of want to. Talking about, really think about that for a second. If America was an experiment, all wakes of life here, all different cultures. It's almost like it's a broad experiment for, like, trying to put, if, like, imagine like it was some sort of weird messed up Pangea. Like they try to put, like, it, I don't know, but an experiment for democracy to see if it works. That's interesting.
Anything on? I believe this is referring to the Belfield Conspiracy, which is sort of an old joke. Belfield is a small town in Germany, and the joke goes like this. Have you ever been to Byfield? Do you know anyone from Byfield? Do you know anyone who's ever been to Byfield? Well, then Byfield simply doesn't exist. It's sort of a parody of the whole idea of crazy conspiracies that just say these blatantly giant things don't exist. Like, for example, in searching for this, I came across the theory that Finland doesn't exist, and that kind of got the point across. Online video game monitoring is exactly what it says, that the government and other agencies is watching online multiplayer games in order to monitor what people are saying and doing, which, considering the announcement Sony just made, is not far from the truth. John Babacombe Lee was a man arrested for murder in 18...
What was the announcement that Sony made when he released this? So it was December 1st, 2020. And that's actually wild. That makes sense. They were monitoring what people said, but I mean, it would make sense. They're monitoring everything, but, like, even heard something before where they know what, like, they know. Yeah, I'll just say I heard before that they know what you're gonna post before you post it, and it's, yeah. But the thing with monitoring gaming, what are they listening for, man? Like, what would be your words to, like, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about it. What would have to be your words to get you absolutely FBI opened up and them flood your house while you're sitting half naked with sweat stains? Nah, I'm just joking. But what would you have to say to get their attention? That's, like, so weird. Would you just have to question what you would have to say to get their attention? John Babacombe Lee,
1885, and sentenced to hang. In research, Babacombe Lee was a man arrested for murder in 1885 and sentenced to hang. In researching this, it seems like he didn't do it, or if he did do it, the evidence was circumstantial at best, since all the evidence I could find was that he was a guy who lived near the woman who was murdered and had a cut on his arm, which meant she may have possibly fought back, which circumstantial at best. However, what's interesting about him is that when he was taken to execution, he was attempted to be hanged 3 times, all 3 times of which it didn't work. What happened is the trapdoor was tested out as he stood there. He then went and stood on it, to which the trapdoor was pulled but wouldn't open. He stepped off, the trapdoor was tested again, to which it opened fine, and this process repeated 3 times, which after finally the medical expert said that he wasn't going to be a part of it because God didn't want this man to hang, and instead John was just given life in prison. It's an interesting story, especially since there were witnesses and this happened 3 times in a row. It leads to the idea that perhaps divine intervention didn't want John to die.
Funny enough with that, and he said that it happened 3 times in a row. 3 is the magic number. If y'all don't know about that. But it's funny because there's also posts going around talking about your higher self saving you, and that really seems like a situation like that. But then it sucks that it's a win-lose because he got life in prison. But yeah, that divine intervention. That's funny.
RPG Insanity
That's
Training
crazy.
was a wild read. When I finally found information on it, it's the idea that Yakuza is paying off Nintendo and other game companies such as in order to promote insane behavior in their audience to promote further anarchy and disruption within communities and the world. So, yeah, don't play Animal Crossing. The Oz factor is the idea that much like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, during certain points people can leave this plane of existence. For example, if you disassociate too hard, you can cross over to another nearby parallel universe, or
The freaking back rooms.
at least a universe between universes. All the examples that I found in this were such as whenever you enter a building where it seems like none of the workers are there who should be there, or if you're ever walking down the street and interactions seem incredibly odd for a small amount of time. This could be signs that you are in a sort of space between spaces.
Yeah,
Now I'll be honest here.
I like that.
Some of these titles are so vague I could find nothing for them exactly. Like there's so much stuff it could possibly mean that I'm simply going to have to take a guess, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm sorry about that, but I have no idea. So extreme continents, from everything I can figure out.
Wait, let me take a guess. It's the idea that past Antarctica, there's like these gigantic continents.
Either has to do with lost continents or the end points of known continents. These two actually kind of go hand in hand with each other. I found several theories that during tectonic plate shifts, lost continents, which are land masses that sunk below the ocean. I spoke of Lemuria in tier 2, I believe. That whenever they meet the land and the land begins to slope off, this sort of area between continents is where civilizations used to exist. And that's the best I could do for this. Sorry if that is totally off the mark, but I promise I tried. Shaver's writings refers to the comics written by a man named Richard Shaver.
I thought it was kind of referring to the theory that, you know, like Antarctica is a ring, and then outside of Antarctica, where they talk about like Argarth is under, but past it, why they like it's literally just that whole thing about Antarctica on the like there's a model of it, but I can't remember what it is. But if it's like if you picture Antarctica and then like being a ring around every other continent, and then on the outside of that it's even more, it's like, well, actually, one sec. So to explain my thing more properly with the whole Antarctica around the thing, I wasn't trying to say the FE theory because I don't want my video flagged with Wikipedia, you know, information or alternate information. So you know the model I'm talking about, globe, you know. So let's call it snow globe Earth. So if Antarctica was all the way around, I thought the extreme continents, because I think this has been shown with some of their models that they've shown or tried to explain with that theory, that it's basically a ring, and then if you could imagine a 2x size, like basically just zooming out, and they put the next ring and then they would put the number next to it to be like, oh, this is the next zoomed out, you know, integer, whatever you want to call it. And it's like in between that space, like the donut would be bigger continents, and then outside that it'd be bigger continents, and basically it's like we're in this small circle of like America, this Australia, blah blah blah, and it's like that. But that's what I thought that was referring to. But let's continue. Okay.
His theory was that thousands of years ago, aliens came to Earth and, after leaving offspring to populate the planet, flew back out to their home planet and left their children, or as he called them, Deros, here on Earth. His explanation fell in line with what I've mentioned before, the hollow earth theory, or that of Agartha, and that these children live in underground caves, and people who periodically go missing for whatever reason are being used as either food or just a torture source for these underground creatures. Kind of falls in line with the idea that this is not our home and it's someone else's, and at any moment we could essentially be wiped out. So only good thoughts on this channel. Porn control.
He said only good thoughts on this channel. I want to comment on that, but maybe not. Yeah, I'll leave that one too.
Can I say porn? Whatever. Porn control is the idea that porn is used by mass media or global elites in order to make the populace submissive and compliant. The idea with this being people who watch porn have decreased sex drive for other people, which makes them less outgoing and less assertive in situations, and generally makes a weaker populace, and therefore porn is used as a manner to disable the population for whatever these higher powers want. A temporary autonomous zone is more of a belief, especially one imposed by anarchists throughout history, with the idea that throughout periods of time, whenever government is infringing on culture too much, areas should crop up, or temporary autonomous zones as they're called, in which information could be exchanged freely and thoughts and ideas between people, and then they could disseminate and leave the autonomous zone, and these ideas could continue to proliferate. So from everything I read, essentially think of it as underground churches or secret book readings during book burning times throughout history, and things such as basically the whole idea that if a government is encroaching on culture or ideas too much, that people should come together and exchange them in secret. Henotheism is when someone
sounds like stuff that really went on, especially
believes in many gods yet only worships one god. This is something that is commonly seen in old world history, where often people would believe in the hierarchy of gods in old legends, yet they would normally only go to churches or worship a specific one. This is just sort of the name to describe that. Quantum jumping is an idea in spiritual psychology and very closely relates to spiritual science. It is the idea that in times of stress...
One second. Let me pause this. I think I'm good. No more interruptions. Okay, quantum jumping,
someone can quantum jump to another version of themselves in a parallel universe in order to gain insight or information. This has a lot to do with self-enlightenment, and if you wanted to think of it as anything, kind of think of it as the Oz factor I mentioned earlier, only done on purpose in order to learn something.
Very true.
Fulcanelli is interesting because...
Very true, and if you're interested in doing something like this, just get into meditation. And not only that, look into the Akashic records and what it is.
No one knows the identity of this man, and the only reason we know he exists is through his journals and students who say they learned under him. Fulcanelli was a French alchemist. This relates back to the Philosopher's Stone that I mentioned earlier, but he wasn't just an alchemist, he was the best. So much so that his students say they would routinely see him turn 100 grams of iron into gold and things such as. Considering that he would have operated in, I believe, the 1500s, any practices that he would have been doing would be far ahead of his time, yet again, we don't know his identity. This leads theories for everything that he was an alien or the devil. So figure out somewhere in the middle what you want him to be. Fringe Viper releases is exactly what it sounds like. Several deadly viper species popped up in France within the last 20 to 30 years, with the idea being that secret organizations or the French government themselves are purposefully doing it either to keep people out of the woods or control the populations of various species of animal. Although the latter doesn't make that much sense, because if you wanted to do that, why make them venomous? Grey goo is another concept that has to do with singularity that, again, I mentioned in tier 2, or ideas of technology taking over. It essentially gets to the idea that nanotech will commit something called ecophagy, which translates to literally eating the habitat. The idea being that at some point a nanotech will be developed that only knows to reproduce itself over and over again. Ooh. And if it sees humanity as a threat to this initiative, it will simply eat everything, and I mean everything. Habitat, landmass, biomass, all of it, and create a gray goo across the planet of itself. It's one of those cataclysmic events in which we could wipe ourselves out, which is talked about several times before and will be mentioned several times again. Mox Principle is an idea in theoretical physics and makes us ask the question of why some things are held in orbit while other things are pushed away. The description or example that's most common is this. If you were to stand in a field and look directly up at the stars and hold your arms out to your side and spin around, then why do the stars stay in orbit as you spin while your arms are being pulled out from you? And essentially comes back to the idea that while in motion, things near you are pushed away and things away from you are kept in a relative position. It's a weird idea that has to do with, again, theoretical physics, but that's basically the principle of it, and it's used to explain a lot of natural phenomena. Volcani, I have no idea how to pronounce that, is a series of forests that occur in the Latvian area of...
Before we talk about that one, let me type it. Interesting, okay.
Europe, in which these giant stones are assembled into these piles, and no one knows why. Theories have originally ranged that maybe a castle was going to be built there and just hadn't, but there's no record of that throughout history. To giants putting the stones there, there's giants again. What's even weirder is that it seems these stones periodically move. Never enough to be widely noticed or able to be pointed at by everyone, but just enough to keep the local park people suspicious that they're being moved. And keep in mind, these are really big rocks. It's not like some kid could just come throw them into another pile if they wanted. It would take some deliberate force of nature. This has led to people around the area considering it a spiritual site, and it is a very popular destination for yogis and witches and things such as. Deep ecology fascism is a combination of two different ideologies. Deep ecology is the idea that nature should not only be preserved, but that nature itself is alive and should be treated as such. While fascism is, for this purpose, the idea of preserving original ideas and circumstances for future generations. So if you were to combine the two, it would be the idea of preserving nature to such a ridiculous degree as if nature itself was alive, which would essentially treat any crime against nature as a crime against man. Deathworm relates to that of the Mongolian deathworm, in which the desert...
I could kind of see that one. I mean, I think it, like, before it gets any worse, that kind of should be a thing, but not, like, to any extreme form where it gets out of hand, but... I think that should be something that should be...
Mongolia, the locals have legends of a giant serpent or
technically going against nature is going against yourself if you look at it at a deeper level, since everything was created out of nature. So, like, hurt nature, hurt yourself, technically.
That lives beneath the sand, and that people who are caught out there by themselves are swallowed up by it. This is backed up by reports in the area of people going missing with no body being found in the desert, and these odd trails being left in the sand for seemingly no reason. I don't even know if I can talk about this one either. It's exactly what it looks like, the joke off of Family Guy, and says that the government developed one in the 80s, and I'm not kidding. KKK funded by governments is exactly what it sounds like. The idea that the government has funded the Ku Klux Klan in order to keep down minorities throughout history, and not just our government, but that England had backing in it too. So yeah, the Titanic didn't sink.
Heard that one. Probably won't get too deep into that one. And I heard that there was actually
has more plausible information behind it than any other conspiracy in this tier. The company that owned the Titanic, White Star Line, which, keep in mind, one of the partial owners was JP Morgan, had another ship in their fleet called the Olympia. Most people have it in their mind that the Titanic was way larger than any other ship at its time, but that's not necessarily true. For example, the Olympia, which was another ship owned by the same company, was very similar in size and appearance. A few months before the Titanic set sail, the Olympia had an accident that damaged it seriously and supposedly was going to cost a lot of money to repair. The story is that the Olympia was replaced for the Titanic and simply names were changed between the two ships, and the Olympia was actually sunk as a whole insurance fraud move in order for these stockholders to get a return on their investment. There's a lot of sort of evidence that goes into this. For example, pictures of the Titanic as it's leaving seem to resemble the Olympia more than the Titanic itself. There are records of crewmen who were supposed to be hush-hush about it, calling the Olympia the Titanic in private. And even more so, the Californian, which was another ship in the vessel, the night the Titanic sunk, went to about the same spot, hung out for a few hours, and then left, implying that they were setting up something. It's very odd, and there's a whole lot of information about this, so I encourage you to check it out yourself. Smithsonian suppression refers to the recently discovered event in which around 1900 the Smithsonian smashed thousands of giant human skulls in order to maintain the theory of evolution the way science saw it at the time. This doesn't just stop at skulls though. They destroyed other bones such as femurs that were 4 feet long because it didn't match the current theories of the time. I guess that's the way science worked back then. If it didn't support your theory, just destroy it.
Destroy it. Yep, exactly. Just destroy it. That's really how everything.
Across North America, and not only would it have answered questions about immigration to North America before, the coming of Europe and whatnot, it would also have been an opportunity to study these giant humanoid creatures.
Yeah.
But we can't, because someone in the 1900s from the Smithsonian didn't like that it didn't match their science project. So.
Yep.
Yeah, do with that information what you will. And that is it for Tier 3. It was a little while between parts. I had some friends come over for the holidays, so forgive me on that. Part 4, or I should say Tier 4, should be out fairly soon.
Okay, so we hit 31 minutes. I thought it would be 40, but I'm glad it's 10 minutes less, because some of those I didn't really have much to say about, but the Smithsonian one, he said take that information for what you will. Literally, just what I take out of that is anytime something doesn't match anybody's research, let's try to cover it up. And that's why I feel like one of the main reasons you have conspiracy theories is because shit gets covered. So, the death worm thing, I do not like that. Now, some people talking about not liking the ocean, not liking the water. Imagine getting caught out in the open with one of these death worms. Like something out of Dune. Other than that, yeah. Fulcanelli, I think I heard of Fulcanelli. And I don't want to say too much about this, but the temporary autonomous zones, they sound like these were like when you look into things like cult lectures or different passings of information back in the past, or how certain things had to spread. This seems like a thing that was very, very real, very common thing, actually. It's weird when some things pop up in conspiracy lists that have real things behind it. Does that make sense? How I'm saying it? It's oh, but yeah, about that one, I'm not gonna say anything about that one too. For that one, it's just look at the media. Just pay attention to the media. Okay, other than that, I think I'm done here. Can't wait to move on to part 4. I want to just keep going. And yeah, much love and moonlight. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for liking the videos and liking my comments on these things. This stuff is really cool. I'm over here looking at the comments from the old one. The old one. Oh yeah, I have to shout out to Ranger Ghost. That was funny. Being with AI, if you get a Cortana waifu, that had me laugh. That was great. Bro, I am so down with whatever technological advances we make, as long as we're not trying to make something sentient or it's probably already done. Honestly, I'm probably too late for saying this. Like, I don't know how people don't learn, like, enough is enough. Don't know why that doesn't exist in certain people who have come here to experience certain lives programming. Like, okay, I don't want to get too esoteric about choosing your path when you get to Earth and stuff, but like for the people who become the scientists or for the people who want to invent stuff, why isn't there like a thing that's imprinted in them that's like, or maybe like friends that get pushed into their reality or colleagues that are like, maybe we should chill the fuck out? I think that AI could definitely be past that point already. It's already too late. Like, there's things we haven't seen, but hopefully someone's got a kill switch on all of it, if not the entire world, but we end up like Horizon Zero Dawn or Forbidden West or something. All right, I'm out of here. Much love and moonlight to you guys. I'll see you in the next one of this. Yeah, I've just been feeling like covering these. These are just so interesting to watch, but yeah, I do have other requests to get to eventually, though. But all right, peace, peace, peace.